The quality of life does not depend on what you have, it depends on what you are carrying inside your heart. Now, take a moment to reflect. When you see someone else's mistake, the common reaction is blame, anger, or judgment. But do you know what's happening inside? You begin to connect your inner frequency with that very mistake, and from there you lock yourself into the past. You are carrying an invisible lock-it-all that seals off all the beautiful emotions within you. And to see someone's fault without attaching it to yourself, that is true tolerance. In other words, tolerance is the ability to see faults without making them a burden on yourself. Welcome to the Inner World Podcast. I'm Liam Johnson, and today's journey will lead you into a new depth, where we go beyond simply forgiving others and begin to liberate ourselves from within. This is a special 21-session inner journey that helps you elevate your awareness step by step from reaction to mindfulness, from attachment to release, from wounding to healing. And today we step into session 17, a topic that seems easy to understand, but few truly live it: the state of inner peace. Previously, you and I explored the deep lesson of tolerance, where we realized that tolerance is not about pardoning others, but unlocking ourselves from invisible prisons. The story of the woman in the dream, with her tightly locked house, clearly showed this. When we haven't forgiven others, we are also locking ourselves in. And today, from the soil of tolerance, we will plant the seed of inner peace. But be careful. Inner peace is not a fleeting feeling that arises when things go your way. It does not come from having more, but from being less attached. Together, we will uncover this truth. The more someone possesses, the less peace they often feel, while those who let go feel more free. This might go against what society teaches you, but that's exactly why it needs to be said. Clearly, calmly, and at the right time. In today's video, we'll expand on the topic of tolerance from session 16 and continue the journey with understanding what true peace is and why it's not a goal to be achieved, but a natural state that has been obscured. Why letting go of lust, status, fame, food, and sleep doesn't make you lose yourself, but helps you reclaim who you really are. And most importantly, how do you sustain that state in a world full of imbalance and constant change? At the end of today's video, I'll share a key principle that helps you shift from being someone who reacts to circumstances to someone who actively creates them through your own inner frequency. So stay until the end, because the most important thing is always at the end. This is Liam Johnson, and you're listening to the Inner World Podcast, where we don't chase happiness, but learn to stay with ourselves in a state of deep peace. And we begin this journey with an important realization. Tolerance is not just a virtue, it is a state of the inner self. It may sound simple, but this is one of the most misunderstood principles of life. Because people often think tolerance means forgiving others. But that's not it. Tolerance is not about forgiving someone because they deserve it. It's because you deserve to be free. Think about this. Have you ever felt chronically tired, even when no one around you has hurt you? Have you ever woken up feeling heavy, without any clear reason, like a rock pressing on your chest? Many people live in that state for months, even years. They get health checkups, they change their environment, they try every method to feel better. But the issue is not on the outside, it lies in what remains unhealed, on the inside. And if you pay attention, you'll notice Society teaches us plenty about how to be better, earn more money, and live a more comfortable life, but rarely teaches us how not to carry long-lasting pain inside. And no one teaches us this. Tolerance, when properly understood, is the way to restore your life energy from within. Here's the core point. Tolerance is a vibrational state of the inner self. Words can be confusing, so let me explain this more clearly. Each of us emits a certain inner frequency, like music playing in a room. When you live in resentment, guilt, or shame, you are emitting a distorted, dissonant vibration. But when you are in a state of acceptance, understanding, and tolerance, you emit a harmonious, gentle frequency. This is called an inner electromagnetic vibrational state. What does that mean? It means that every time you dwell on someone else's mistakes, you are not hurting them. You are disturbing your own energy system. And here's the sad truth. The longer you store those memories inside, the more misaligned your frequency becomes. Your body weakens, your emotions become unstable, your thoughts turn negative. And one day you realized it wasn't someone else who hurt you. It was you, by not knowing how to free yourself from that pain. Why is this so important? Because it's the root of your emotional and mental well-being. If you don't address this, you could learn hundreds of life skills, thousands of communication tips, but still feel exhausted inside. You could make money, but lose the joy of living. You could smile, but still feel restless. I believe the quality of life does not depend on what you have, it depends on what you are carrying inside your heart. Now, take a moment to reflect. When you see someone's fault, the typical reaction is blame, anger, or judgment. But do you know what's happening inside? You begin to connect your inner frequency with that very fault. And from that moment, you lock yourself into the past. You carry an invisible lock sealing away all the beautiful emotions within you. To see someone's fault, but not attach it to yourself. That is true tolerance. In other words, tolerance is the ability to see faults without turning them into your own burden. And if no one has ever taught you this before, now is the time to begin. Here's the principle. Tolerance helps rebalance your inner state and restore your life energy. A simple way to understand it. The more you hold on to resentment, the more energy you lose. The more you hold on to tolerance, the lighter, deeper, and stronger you become from within. Do not mistake tolerance for weakness. Tolerance is an invisible strength of the inner self, found only in those who are truly mature. Because the weak retaliate, the strong forgive, but the wise liberate themselves. I want you to ask yourself this. Is there something you've been holding inside that you don't actually need to carry anymore? Is there someone you believe you can never forgive, but maybe you don't need to forgive them? You just need to free yourself? In the next episode, we'll explore a story, a dream, a locked house, and a version of yourself trapped inside. This story will help you see more clearly what has been holding you back, and how to unlock it. More importantly, begin the practice, because the key has always been in your hand. Let me tell you a story. There was a young woman. She was ill, but not with an ordinary illness. She visited many places, tried many treatments, but the illness persisted. She was not just physically exhausted. Her eyes, her voice, even her breath were depleted. Every night she had the same dream. An abandoned house, dilapidated and dark. Outside, a large lock sealed the door. Inside, countless people were trapped. Each time she had that dream, she woke up feeling more drained than the last. One day she sought out a teacher. He listened to her story, then handed her a golden key. He said, "When the dream returns, use this key to open the door and set everyone inside free. Then you will be healed." She listened, but when the dream returned, she hesitated. Through the crack in the door, she clearly saw the faces inside. They were the ones who had hurt her. A neighbor who bullied her as a child, a friend who once betrayed her, even a three-legged dog that bit her when she was young. They were all there. She thought, "Why should I open the door and release those who caused me pain?" And so she pulled the key back, turned away, carrying a victorious smile and a fatigue that never left. Do you see what was happening? She thought keeping them locked in that house was a way to protect herself from past pain. But she did not realize she was locked in there with them. What was the house? It was her subconscious. What was the lock? It was resentment, the refusal to forgive. And those people trapped inside, they were not others. They were the memories she had not yet released. You could spend your entire life locking others in your mind, but not realize that every time you lock someone in, you are locking away a part of yourself. A gentle part, a loving part, a free part. And then one day she could not take it anymore. She returned to the teacher. The teacher said, "If you do not open the door, that house will collapse with it." That time, when the dream returned, she took action. She unlocked the door. It swung open. One by one, the people ran out. But there was one person left. A frail, pale woman curled up in the corner, too weak to walk out on her own. The girl ran to her, lifted her up, and helped her out of the house. And at that very moment, the house crumbled behind them. She was stunned when she realized that pale woman was herself. When you forgive everyone, the first person set free is you. This is a law of consciousness. When you show compassion to others, you unlock the door to show compassion to yourself. If you still cannot forgive the past, you are still living in that old house, still trapping yourself in an outdated version of who you once were. Hukwi, wounded, exhausted. Tolerance is an act of liberation. Not just forgiving others, it is unlocking the past within yourself. You do not need to do something grand to transform. You just need to be mindful enough to look inward, because sometimes the only thing you need to do is open a door. So, who are you locking inside your house? Are you ready to take the golden key and free yourself? Reflect deeply. Because what we will explore next is the very thing that sustains true inner peace. Not satisfaction, but non-attachment. We will continue in the next part. And if you are still with me on this journey, after the story of the dream, the locked house, and the frail woman who was set free, what have you begun to realize? That sometimes what we think is suffering caused by others is actually a disturbance arising from within ourselves. Now is the time for a new awareness, an awareness that could change the way you see life and yourself. Tolerance is not just an emotion, but the science of inner state. First, let's talk about something obvious that we often forget. The human mind is like an electromagnetic system. It emits waves, it receives signals, and, like any electronic device, it can be interfered with. Just like placing your phone next to a strong transmitter distorts sound and image, your inner self reacts the same way. When you attach yourself to the mistakes of others, you are not just thinking about them. You are disrupting your own inner vibrational state. And this is where a profound principle begins. Tolerance equals protection of your inner energy frequency. This is not a vague concept. It is a real, tangible state you can feel. When you are tolerant, your mind is unattached. And when unattached, your life energy becomes stable and positive. On the other hand, if you carry resentment in your heart, you are holding a negative magnetic field right in your chest. Every breath you take passes through that energy field. Every decision you make is influenced by that distortion. You might ask, so how do I know if I'm in a distorted or negative frequency? It's simple. When you get irritated easily by small things, when you feel tired for no clear reason, when your heart feels cramped, heavy, or lifeless, that's when your inner frequency is being disrupted. And the danger is, you don't need anyone to hurt you to feel this way. You do it to yourself, simply by not being tolerant. And here is something most people have never been told. Tolerance does not only help heal others, it is nourishment for you. Let's look at it practically. When you don't forgive, you remain tied to the wound. Every time you remember, your body reacts. Your heart races, your breath shortens, your forehead tightens. These are signs of your nervous system being activated. But when you truly practice tolerance, when you detach yourself from that memory, your body is released. Your breathing softens. Your muscles relax. And the stream of life energy begins to flow through your body. Slow down, and you will feel that energy. It is truly miraculous. This is especially important for women, because a woman by instinct is a vessel of softness, care, and healing. But if a woman does not learn to be tolerant with herself, she becomes the harshest judge of her own soul. I have met many women who endure, who sacrifice, but never learn how to forgive themselves for even the smallest mistakes. They keep everything inside, let it accumulate, and eventually they lose their natural softness. Being tolerant with others is essential, but being tolerant with yourself is vital. And if I had to distill one truth from today's message, it would be this. The person most deserving of your tolerance is yourself. No one can live fully while constantly blaming themselves. No one can maintain peace while living in the past. And no one can truly be free if they remain attached to what they cannot change. Because in the end, if you don't know how to practice tolerance, you will never truly be yourself. So ask yourself, what are you still attached to? When was the last time you forgave yourself? Because maybe what you need right now is not another piece of advice, but a pause. To begin being gentle with yourself. We will continue in the next part, where we explore the concept of inner peace, not as satisfaction, but as a deep inner state, a form of freedom that does not require life to appear perfect first. I am Liam Johnson, and you are listening to Inner World Podcast, where we do not try to control the world, but learn to free ourselves from within. And as you can see, if we do not learn how to be tolerant with ourselves, we will never be able to live fully in the present moment. But the question is, after tolerance, what comes next? What is restored when you let go of what no longer needs to be held? The answer is one of the most precious things a human being can experience, the state of inner peace. But did you know that most people misunderstand what inner peace truly means? They believe peace is when everything goes smoothly, when work is going well, when the bank account is full, when relationships are harmonious, when health is stable. And they say, "I just want to live in peace." But in reality, what they are seeking is not peace, it is satisfaction. It is the contentment that comes from gaining something more. This is a simple truth, yet few remember it. If your happiness depends on circumstances, then as soon as those circumstances change, that joy collapses. If you only feel joy when others recognize you, then you are handing over the key to your emotions. And if you believe that having more will make you happier, you will always live in a state of not enough. So it is time to return to the right definition. Peace is not a temporary emotion. It is a sustainable state of awareness. In other words, peace does not come from what you have, but from what you are no longer attached to. You listen without being pulled in. You observe without judgment. You speak without being driven by the ego. You live without needing anything more to feel complete. And here is the beauty of it. When the state of inner peace is restored, your mind becomes free. You are no longer haunted by wealth, beauty, fame, food, or sleep. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer worry about what others think. You no longer chase mental images that even you are unsure where they lead. This is not resignation to reality, it is a deep companionship with reality, guided by clear awareness. One person walks into an empty room and feels bored. Another enters the same room and feels calm, at ease. Same space, different inner awareness. And you know, the one who attains peace is not someone who has no dreams or ambitions. It is someone who has seen the limits of desire and chooses not to cling to it anymore. Happiness does not come from having more, but from attaching less. This is the law. The more you are attached to, the more easily you are controlled. The less you depend on, the more inner freedom you have. And the strange thing is, it is exactly when you no longer must have that you effortlessly attract all that is good. Not because you demand it, but because you align with it. This is not about simplifying life to give up, but to help you realize peace is already within you. It has never left. It is just that your mind wandered off course. So if you have ever felt tired from having to achieve more just to feel joy, perhaps now is the time to try something different. Let go, to clearly see the value of what remains. To close this section, I leave you with this. If you are not yet ready to forgive others, at the very least, do not imprison yourself any further. Tolerance does not require approval. It requires courage. And peace does not need perfect circumstances, only your awareness to let go. You see, sometimes what holds us back is not the weight of life, but the unnamed things within us. A memory not yet forgiven, a desire not yet released, a joy we keep waiting for without realizing it has been here all along. We have just walked a journey from tolerance to inner peace, and perhaps somewhere in that story, you saw yourself. Someone who once tried hard to be strong, but never learned how to be gentle in order to be free. Someone who thought they needed something more, but in the end only needed to let go. If something touched you today, don't rush to click like or share. Truly feel it, because the spreading of a meaningful value does not begin with a share button. It begins with transformation from within. But if you feel this message should reach more people, then let that sharing begin with you. You may consider subscribing to the Inner World podcast, not just to avoid missing the next episode, but to walk alongside a community choosing to live mindfully, deeply, and with great light from within. I am Liam Johnson. I hope you will stay attuned to yourself, and from there, live each moment of this life fully, with a heart that is already peaceful, already free. See you in the next part of the journey.